So I'm Owen Gray. I'm the Stewardship Manager at Wildlands Trust. Thank you for coming to Tips for Recruiting and Retaining a Strong Stewardship Volunteer Corps. I'm going to get rolling. So I'm going to start, just give you a little background on Wildlands Trust. So we are a regional land trust operating out of Plymouth. We're active in 60 towns from the Rhode Island border up to Milton, south of Boston, and we extend as far west as Plainville. We've got 12 full-time staff, 5 part-time staff, and 4 departments. We're broken up into 4, but we really all work together daily. Just here's our coverage area. So you can see broken into fee parcels and conservation restrictions. At Wildlands in our stewardship department, we only handle fee properties. Conservation restrictions are part of our land protection team. So we've got just under 5,000 acres that we manage, and this is what leads us to the volunteer program. We show you how I started managing for this coverage area. When I first started, this was the stewardship approach at Wildlands. There's 3 maniacs that they would hire in the summer. We had no full-time stewardship staff, no volunteer program. We would just go pretty hard in the summers and try to catch up after storm damage. There's no real structured approach to what we were doing in the department at all. Fast forward to today. That was about 13, 14 years ago, that picture. So today we've got our fully functioning stewardship department. So clearly come a long way. 3 full-time land stewards. Stewardship manager, we have a stewardship programming coordinator and a stewardship volunteer coordinator. And we have Teddy down at the bottom. So the staff is on the right side of the picture. On the other side is our stewardship committee. That is 4 volunteers who have been active at the trust for the last 10 years and have over that time become an extension of our staff. They're at all staff meetings. They're on our website under the staff. While they're just volunteers, they are just as important as anybody who works there. But really having the staff to now manage our volunteer program is where we've gotten things moving in terms of volunteer engagement. So here's a list of what we do for volunteer programming. Some of these might just be words, but the 2 top programs, Adopt to Preserve and Vol on Tuesday, those are coming up in this presentation. I'll explain that a little bit more. But we do have a volunteer hike leader program. We've got the stewardship committee I just mentioned. I'll mention the specialists coming up, and outing clubs like Sierra Club, corporate group, corporate groups, and then Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. And then the community stewardship project is, in our department we do fee-for-service work for municipalities and other orgs, where they can hire us to come build a boardwalk or help with the trail renovation. Part of that is working with those volunteer groups from a town we might not usually work with. So that's a great experience for us there. So our Adopt to Preserve program is kind of the start of where we got going with volunteers. There's over 140 people in this program now, and this is a preserve monitoring program. We go back to that coverage map 47 acres, 4,700 acres over 60 towns for 3 people is not realistic to keep up with. So over time, we came up with this idea to train people in going out and walking our trails and just submitting a report. It's a really small commitment for the volunteer, and it makes a huge difference for us. We know what's happening on our properties and are able to prioritize work, and it's really effective for us. And we've just...
There you go.
Yep. Oh, that's so different. So pictured here is a new app that we've just started. Quick Capture, it's through Esri, if any of you are familiar. We've built a monitoring form on this app for our volunteers. They're able to track themselves as they walk our preserve, and it's big button format, so any issue that they might run into or anything cool they want to report, it's got a big button, and they just hit it. The app takes the coordinates for where they are. At the end, they submit the report, and we get it all right into our ArcGIS system. It's very organized and clean on the back end. So that's our main use of volunteers. The newer volunteer program is Volun Tuesday. So this came to fruition when we were kind of starting to feel like we were biting off more than we could chew as a department in terms of bigger projects, getting more ambitious with building new trails or replacing old boardwalks. We would get halfway through a project and another one would start, and we say, oh God, we haven't finished this one. So we realized that we had this big adopt to preserve pool of people who were really interested in helping us, and said, well, let's try getting everybody together once a week and seeing if we can't get this stuff finished a little faster. And before you know it, this is now everybody at the Trust's favorite thing, is Volun Tuesday. It's usually 15 or 20 people. Just, you don't need to register. We'd like it if you do, because then we can tell you if we have to cancel. But anybody can come. It's usually at a different preserve each week, and it's just formed this really great group of people who love working together. And it's over 2.5 years. We've gotten so many projects done, but these people are hanging out outside of work days. They're now carpooling to the preserves. It's really turned into a great community, and that's what I think is attracting new people to it. If somebody drops in to their first Volun Tuesday, they're immediately in this kind of family group. It sounds cheesy, but it really is a great way to get new people into the fold. And then that'll take me to how we recruit for all of these programs. So we've tried all of these approaches. We've had varying levels of success at different times in our volunteer programs. But I'd recommend trying them all and see what happens. It's not, you just lose time, that's it. But the last two are what I would really like to highlight. That's the word of mouth is key at this point in our program, because people enjoy what they're doing with us so much that they tell their neighbor, they tell their friends, and then those people will come, and maybe it's for them, maybe it's not, but we're not having to do much tabling anymore or pushing it out on social media, because we've got enough people just hearing about it and showing up. And then I've always said these random encounters is the best way to get a new volunteer. I think you run into somebody, whether it's they're walking their dog on a trail, it's somebody sends you an email asking about a rule for a property. I've gotten somebody who's about to call the police on me for walking into the woods off of the road. Once you get talking to people, if you're able to just be real with them, they might, see what you're doing as a land steward and say, oh, that's pretty cool, I'd like to participate. And if it doesn't come up while you're just talking naturally to them, I turn into a bit of a salesman, and I say, this is pretty cool that you have this behind your house, right? Or, you like this trail, it's a little shabby, why don't you come help us? So these random encounters, don't hesitate to sell what you're doing, and don't just assume somebody's willing to volunteer until they tell you they're not. That's a good approach to it. So then once you've got them recruited, you must train them. And we're very lucky at Wildlands where we have the Stewardship Training Center in Plymouth, if any of you have been there. It's a big building that we're able to bring in specialists like Kelly and offer trainings in many facets of stewardship. Like, we lots of carpentry workshops. We do trainings for seasonal staff, wilderness first aid, chainsaw trainings. It's mostly geared towards stewardship professionals, but there are many volunteers who attend these programs, and that helps build their repertoire right away. I think most of their learning, and as far as training goes, is done on the job. So over that 2.5-year span that I mentioned with the Vol on Tuesday program, we've had people who didn't know what a drill was, and now they're, screwing decking into boardwalks. They're, helping us build these just crazy covered picnic tables that you'll see. So it's really, people get exposure. They want to learn if you create a welcoming environment. And then, the Lop and Learn is, quarterly we will host people at usually our office, bring in a professional, whether it's biologist or we've done it with farmers. And we'll work, but we'll also try to have that professional teach during the event. So these are just some other volunteer opportunities I listed earlier. So conservation service focus groups. Each summer we host 20 or 25 people from Sierra Club. They come from all over the country, and they pay a lot of money to come work in August in usually fields in southeastern Mass. It's really hot. And they don't usually like it, but we get a lot done. And they come back. So, that's an option. We've done lots of projects with local groups, whether it's pizzerias or banks, real estate groups that are looking to get their staff some service. And, sometimes they come to us, other times we have to kind of put the word out that we have that option for groups. And then, you see the specialized volunteers. That's a lifesaver for me. So specialized volunteers are what I call these people who are willing to, we have wetland specialists, specialty builders, people who are trained in tasks that usually are very expensive for us to hire people to do. And generally they started as volunteers with Adopt a Preserve or Vol on Tuesday, and now are doing wetland delineations for us for free, They will help with permitting. We've got engineers who will help with designs, and I didn't know half of these people had that background until I just started talking to them on a trail doing work. So really the theme here is just get to know these people, and you never know. You never know. And then the municipal committees and groups ties into the community stewardship that I mentioned when we're doing projects for other towns or groups around. We're often overlapping with the open space committees and Concoms. This is kind of just overview of our 2025 volunteer results. So all of the work that was done by volunteers, we've estimated $55,000 value, which is no small chunk of change. Lessons learned? You really just need the first one. I'll try to have food if you're able to. If people really enjoy it, and it's just that they tend to come back when there's food. It doesn't have to be much, but really, over time we've learned we need to be really organized with everything we're trying to do with volunteers. These are people who are just taking time out of their lives to come do work with us for free, and if we don't know what we're doing with them, it's not a good look for us, and they're probably not going to come back. So really know your plan and stick to it. Don't be afraid to ask people to do something that might be new for them. I mean, don't ask them to do something dangerous, but let them tell you when it's something they're not interested in and they don't want to do, because you never know. Then mix it up. We did a 1,500-foot boardwalk replacement over last winter, and people still give me an earful about it because we had them there for almost 2 months straight, and they did not like it by the end. But then, the last thing is hear folks out, but don't be afraid to say no when you've got volunteers. Remember that you are the expert here. You're being paid in this position. You're going to have a lot of opinions coming at you when you're working with volunteers. Almost always good ones, but you've got a plan. You have the organization's vision, their safety. You just don't be afraid to say no when you need to. Yeah. Now I'll give it to Kelly.
So we'll save questions for the end. We should have plenty of time. So you're going to hear a lot of the same between us, and there's kind of a point to that, is a little bit of redundancy. There's a lot of common ground, common denominators for our mutual secret sauce for how we've been able to build our volunteer corps, why people keep on coming back and growing. And a big part of this is trying to share these sort of common tips so that no matter your size as an organization, whether you're all volunteer, one staff, more staff, large service area, small service area, you can incorporate any and all, a combination of these to grow your core and keep your core. And a lot of it's really at the end about the people. So I'm the Director of Land Stewardship with Barnstable Land Trust, and I've been with the organization since 2019, and a lot of our growth has occurred since that time, so I'm going to share mostly from my experience and how we've grown as a group in many ways, and where we started and what we've learned along the way, and I'll share some specific examples, can easily go through more detail. This session is the end session of the day, so we're also happy to stick around a little further beyond that. And our contact information is all at the end. So just to give a sense of the service area for Barnstable Land Trust, the Cape's a little different, where like about every town has its own land trust and is its own like village mindset. But we're located kind of in the middle of the Cape. We're a pretty big town, technically a city, and so All of our fee-owned properties are all in the dark green. Our CRs are in the orange, and then just sharing some of the other open space in the area in the light green. So we're the outright stewards of a little over 1,200 acres and 129 separate out fee-owned pieces and 49 conservation restrictions at this point. So that's what we're all responsible for, and trying to structure a stewardship core in order to service all of that. So this is where we are today. I'll do some flashbacks to where we started. We haven't always had 2 full-time stewardship staff. We were part-time, if anything, in like the early 2000s. I didn't have a second person with me until a little over a year ago. That's Caroline up there. So I always like to feature her, especially when she's not in the room. So that's kind of our staff guidance to help to gear our core and our planning of projects and needs throughout the year. We're grateful to have a land stewardship committee, which we've had growth and development within that during my time, so I'll share some of that. Currently it's a 9-member committee, and all of them are current land stewards, so they're the people that are boots on the ground. So then when they're coming to the committee, they have the expertise and experience to plan and guide things and then be implementing them too. So it really pays off to have people that kind of know what it looks like on the ground to help be guiding that and supporting that and facilitating that. Our general volunteer program structure is we have a variety, and that's a part of what's made us successful. So we have group projects also on Tuesdays, mostly, and those are like 2-hour power projects. So we found our sweet spot of kind of reducing. We were at 3 hours, but we reduced to 2 hours and found that we accomplished the same, if not more, within that time frame, because we just like started that for like a good hard hour, have a good water break and reconnect, reevaluate what we need to do, and then finish a strong hour, whereas 3 hours we found can kind of drag out. But everyone's different. This is just what we found with us as like a good way that has helped structure us. And then we do some weekends and some kind of ad hoc projects where we need to, but every single week we've got a Tuesday project when we can. Property caretakers is our version of Adopt a Preserve. So that's really great because that's a flexible opportunity. People can do that on their own if they have a full-time job, if they can't make Tuesday projects. And a lot of these folks participate in all aspects of our volunteer program. We've got people that do all of the above. Specialists, same as Owen, there's some people that have some great skills that they bring to the table. Some wetland specialists for us, some people with database management, so then that's helped to open some opportunity, like in growing what we're able to do with landscape software for any of you guys that use that. So that's been really helpful, and a big thing that I'll talk about with this is some of this growth is really guided by opportunity. So when those folks come in and say, hey, I have expertise and interest in this, I see this need, or we say, hey, we have this need, would you be open to this? That's really helped us to grow in some of these ways. And then we've developed independent and or volunteer support teams. And that too is off of like expertise and interest, competency. And several of those are, we have a pile burn team that operates as a support team and a go response team when it's a good burn day coming up, because those are hard to plan for because they're very weather dependent. You can kind of plan, but you still need to adjust. We have a mow team, so they help to take care of the grounds that need actual mowing or just our trail trimming in general. So, and they just operate on their own. They like let me know when they need gas filled up or like equipment repaired, but they just run and do their thing every Tuesday, and there's one of our volunteers who coordinates all of them. So that's been a huge lift from staff, because we're not needing to do the trail maintenance ourselves. So we've been able to focus our energy on more of the behind the scenes stuff like land management plans that no one wants to do. So that's been, we're really grateful. Of course, we'd rather be outside, but very blessed by the group there. And then with our recent storms, we have a storm damage assessment and response team. We have a special projects team who helps to build boardwalks for us, or just a skilled carpentry team. And all of these are just off of opportunity and interest that volunteers have voiced. And it's not just voicing it, it's like having a good read on them as, okay, you're competent and can actually lead this. Like, we've gotten to know you over this time, and so that's been huge. Program nourishment is a big thing as part of this. So retention strategies is engaging with our group as a whole, supporting our group, listening to their needs and interests, socialization, community. So we have developed over time in response to interests, quarterly updates and training. So every quarter we gather our people together on a Tuesday evening, and we have a social period. Then we have like a half hour of here's some big picture updates, things that are coming down the pipe for us, maybe a special thing on CRs or like what land acquisition projects are coming in. And then we always have a timely training that's about a half hour for that time. So January is on burn piles because we're getting into that during that period. April is ticks and poison ivy because that's important to be aware of and vigilant on. July is heat-related illnesses, and then we'll be incorporating stinging insects. So that kind of follows through on responding to feedback as well, that we'll be incorporating stinging insects this year too, because we had an encounter that I'll talk about. And we've had a great turnout for all of those, and we do it hybrid, where there's some people who tune in online and in person. So again, access and flexibility is going to be a big big takeaway from this. We have additional regular trainings that we do through the year, like plant ID, equipment use, things just to build confidence, not only with us, but also with people at home. So sharing safety practices, what can they share with their neighbors in their community, first aid training in there too. So thinking about our community safety as a whole. Social gatherings, there's more that we do beyond just these, so ways to connect is really important. And then at the end of the year in October, in lieu of a quarterly update, we just have an annual stewardship potluck. So that's just a way to celebrate our club as a whole, because like we're all the ones that are putting in our blood, sweat, and bruising and poison ivy rashes and whatever else. So it's really nice to celebrate ourselves a bit. So here's a bit of where we started and where we're at now. Granted, 2020 was COVID year, so that did interrupt projects a lot. But 2017, that's all approximate because I had to look back and we barely had any data tracking. So that's something that we've already grown in. But we didn't really have that much for projects going on. It was all sort of in response to a phone call or to a need that was identified. But nothing necessarily regular and organized or necessarily strategic. And our project sites that we were active at reflects that. We maybe had like 10 volunteers sort of floating in, very dedicated people, but there was no clear growth happening. And even when I came on in 2019, that was one of the first things I was told is that like, no, we're good with our crew. And all of them were in their 70s at that point. And the crew themselves was saying, we need more young people. And, which they meant like below 65, but still. So that was one of the first things that I heard is like, okay, we got to do something to keep this going, because we've got some 80-year-olds here who are saying like, I'm not going to be here forever. I might be horizontal tomorrow, and so this isn't this isn't really the most sustainable. So that was one of the opportunities there. So we had a part-time land stewardship staff member in 2017. We've obviously grown to 2 full-time, but our first full-time staff member came in 2017. And we've been much more proactive with our projects overall. I do want to highlight, I already skipped this bullet, our land stewardship committee. When I came on, we had like 13 people, and it was sort of like a glorified group hangout in the room. It was about like a half hour of catching up with each other, and then I'd be like, so what projects are we planning to do? And they were like, you tell me. And I said, okay. Figured that this group would be able to tell me since I just started, but okay. So just recognizing a little bit in there of, okay, there could be some growth in here for us to actually function as a committee and be strategic. And a lot of that came with some members within that group saying, hey, let's be strategic, and taking advantage of some of that voiced opportunity and interest there. We've grown significantly in our active volunteers over time, so I'll share some of the tricks as we've gone. And then including all of these additional elements that we've added to our plate that didn't exist here. This is the reason why we have 70 volunteers, is all of these support and retention elements. So, how do we get there? So, big things that we keep at our core as we continue to grow or evaluate growth opportunities is balance and community, and that's where everything centers back on. So the balance is not only with us as an organization, but also our volunteers and the input that's coming in. So balancing ourselves of what are our actual needs, what are our strategic goals, what are our opportunities, and then from volunteers, what are the interests there? What can we leverage? How do we support our group? What is feasible for us overall with our own capacity is a big one, while keeping this at our core as a whole. We're a community supported organization, so let's have community at the heart of it, and having that in all of our elements, and that's been our biggest success for why we're at where we're at. So I'll be sharing some of these tips and specific examples with each. I've highlighted some already, but resonating lessons are match interests and expertise with the needs that you have as an organization. Actively seek and apply feedback, and that's just not a one-time thing, that's an always and forever thing. We continue to do that even after we've kind of hit our plateau sweet spot now. Keep community at the core. I'm going to keep on hammering on that. Play the long game, so kind of see the end goal and sort of trust the process a bit, because this doesn't happen overnight. It took us about 3 to 4 years to grow to about where we are now, with some slower increase over the last couple of years. And I see that as actually kind of fast. So don't expect the growth to happen overnight. And then probably the most important thing is say thank you and celebrate. So covering these elements, and this is one of my favorite pictures. This is our land stewardship committee, so I'll talk about them a little bit more. You'll notice me with my overwhelmed, also don't take a picture of me face over there. But this is just such a spirit of where our committee is now. This picture was taken 2 years ago, and it's just a group of laughing people. And so we have a lot of fun, but we're really strategically focused and have really functional committee meetings now. So I'll highlight that a bit more, but just love sharing this image. So recruitment, providing a menu of options, I've already covered that a bit, but that's been really important in order for us to build our group projects and all these different opportunities that we have. Getting the feedback of, I can't make Tuesday, so what can I do? Okay, great, here's our property caretaker program. When we didn't have organized group projects, that was a recognized need of, okay, Maybe we'll have them monthly. That had just been implemented when I came on. But that was actually too infrequent for volunteers where they couldn't tell what the first Tuesday of the month was going to be. But if it happened every week, they were like, I'm looking for something regular. I know that every Tuesday there's going to be something. That makes it really easy for me to show up. So sometimes even increasing regularity, you get even more people that way because like they don't need to look at the calendar at that point to see when things are lining up. And that also helped us because if we had a burn pile in January and then like a tree trimming or a trail trimming project in February, an invasive project in March, and then like didn't have another invasive project until like 3 months later for whatever reason, if I oriented them on bittersweet in March, they don't know what that plant is coming 3 months later. But having it every week and you're able to mix things in a bit more and have that variety while there's still enough repetition that things stick. So we've had so much success along the way and so many things we received returns on just by increasing this regularity. The independent and support teams, I highlighted those. That was all a result of the interest and the needs seen from our volunteers saying like, I could help with this and I could even lead this. And building that trust and like saying, here's what our standards are in order for that to happen, and then following through on that and holding them accountable to it. And giving feedback along the way. We've had a volunteer mode team since 2020. That's crazy. But they just like love doing it, and it's just started itself. And we just do like a check-in at the beginning of the year to make sure that we're hitting everything that we need to and following through on what we need to as we go. Our Land Stewardship Committee, how that grew, was a little bit of a like kind of dainty process because starting off was like a group hangout, and you don't want to say, hey, this isn't working. If you're not interested in this in being strategic, you gotta leave. Not really gonna go over that well with people, but having it be peers in the room that are saying, hey, we really want to be growing and be strategic. It coming from peers really helped us out and helped our group to grow, and people kind of weeded themselves out a little bit of like, hey, maybe I'm not interested in sitting in on a meeting, but I want to help out in other ways. So we were able to keep every single person that was part of that group hangout setting engaged in a similar and different way that maybe it wasn't the right fit to be on that committee itself, and they came to those conclusions themselves instead of us having to say it necessarily. And that took some time. That took about 2 to 3 years from 2019 for us to get to this sweet spot. But we were able to retain a really good relationship with every single person without hurting feelings. So it really takes some care and guidance. So seeking and applying feedback is a really, really important point. I said actively and continuously, and I cannot hammer that in enough, and like genuinely be looking for it. As Owen said, it's okay to say no and say like, here's our standards and where we're at. Oh, you don't want to wear chaps while chainsawing on this trail project around other people? Sorry, this isn't, that's a standard that we have for very specific reasons. That's only like one little example. But it's still important for people to be heard with that, but just like holding to your standards. So group project growth, I just said that's a result of feedback that was received, and then we evaluated with that balance of we can apply this and actually do this and be sustainable with this. There was feedback of, hey, I'd like to get an understanding on more of the background of these projects. I love like more information. And so for those people that do register and sign up for projects, that's not only helpful for us, of course, as Owen said, of we can kind of plan for how many people are gonna show up. But now those people get additional information, which sort of incentivizes people to sign up too. So that's been really good as well. I talked about the quarterly update meetups, so that's following all of those feedback elements too, of wanting to learn more, wanting to get together. Annual trainings are a follow through on that too. And then an important note that I think we've always known but really came through this year is how you respond to the bad is just as, if not more important than how you celebrate and respond with the good. So this summer we were working on building a trail, and we unfortunately encountered a yellow jacket nest. We've encountered yellow jackets through other projects, but this one was when the trail was in the rough, and we did have several people get stung, and we did go through like project full stop, go into emergency response, call 911, get people the help that they need. And then we took it very, very seriously once we knew that everyone was okay, everyone's in good health, everyone's recovered. We did a focused debrief with that group and invited everyone to come to a debrief. And I wasn't sure if we were gonna get, how many people we were gonna get, but we got everyone that came to that project. So there was such interest in the group to come and share experiences, improve things for the future. And there was no like blame game or anything that happened. It was really resonating, and we all did a good job with the best that we could do, and how could we improve things for the future. And one of those things was because, and this is just the conclusion that we came to, because when building a trail, things are in the rough and uneven. If there is a yellow jacket encounter, egress is not as direct. And so we decided we're just not gonna build trails for that period. We will do it November into like May or June maybe. That's the conclusion that we came to, but the conclusion that the volunteers came to with their direct feedback as well. So then that strengthened our whole core of caring about each other. The volunteers being really invested in this conclusion that we came to, and saying, so instead of us receiving complaints for not having projects during that time, they're all behind that decision as well. We now have, at the start of every project, we used to get groans if we're covering hazards. Now they're like, yeah, give us the exits, where are the bathrooms, just like in an airplane kind of thing, and just going through that process. So that's been a really huge thing, is people being really, really impressed with how we followed through on that and the standards that we followed and the care given to everybody through that. I'm gonna hound on community again. Care about your people and like actually care about your people. So covered social gatherings, any little opportunity for connection goes a long way. And actually even do how are yous. We had some major storms recently and people lost power. We checked in with our people, maybe as like a greater whole, not necessarily individually with all 75 people, but in our general communications, we just started off like, first off, how are you? And connecting on that way before giving updates, and like genuinely interested in how everyone's doing. We had a lot of interruptions in our projects this winter, and that's what this photo is from. We didn't do a project here. This was just an opportunity of like, hey, we haven't seen each other for a month. Do you want to go for a walk? And we'll bring coffee and donuts. And we had so many people show up, all with dogs on leash, yay. And it was just a really, really great connection point while like the winter can be a really downtime for a lot of people. And if we didn't do that, like people are gonna think that we don't care about them, and you're gonna lose people that way too. So like, even though it doesn't feel like productive in a way, it's really productive to do this, and really, really goes a long way. Look at all those smiling faces. They're just loving being here. So play the long game. So I'm kind of covering, like if you try to rush the process, you're gonna lose it. So relationships take time, opportunities take time. It really depends on who shows up. Growth takes time. And I've got like one example, even with someone on our land stewardship committee. I had someone come on to volunteer with us several years ago, and he said, like, Kelly, I'll come for every Tuesday. You will never see me on a committee. And I just said he's one of our committee members, right? So this was, I think, 2021, and I noticed over time that he'd be bringing up some ideas and thoughts with me that were pretty strategic minded, and so I kind of like would weasel in some little hints in the conversation, and I think that was 2021, so in 2022, he kept on doing that, and I said, like, Gary, you're thinking pretty strategically. You sure you don't want to be on a committee? You'd be really helpful on this committee. And he's just like, okay, ask me in a year. So the following year, kept on doing the same thing, and I said, hey, Gary, last year you said you asked for me to ask you in a year. Would you be open to joining our committee? I think you'd be really helpful. And he said, Kelly, nothing would make me happier than joining your committee. So sometimes, even if someone says no, it's just build that relationship and play into it. Say, like, here's how you would be really helpful. And that's just only one example, but a really rewarding one. So our most important one, say thank you and celebrate, and it should be in all sizes. Several times throughout the year. A simple thank you is great on every single project. Thanking with food is really good, even if it's a hot dog at a burn pile. But any little sort of ways to get together and say thank you through our annual stewardship potluck is a big way. Our annual all volunteer appreciation for every volunteer of the organization. But even we have AmeriCorps members, so when we say goodbye to our AmeriCorps members at the end of the year, we get together for that, and we cover like the first round of beers or something, or we'll do an ice cream social. So any little thing that's an opportunity to socialize, but also say thank you and get together, really, really goes a long way. And then a very minor thing, but this can also really help you, is building the foundation and infrastructure. In any one or multiples of these ways can really help out too. And all of these happened kind of early on. So like getting a staff member can really help have undivided attention, but I know that's not in everyone's capacity. Getting a truck and trailer has helped us out a lot, and our volunteers are able to use that too. We've got like insurance covers it and all of that. And then having a shed, but now we've even upgraded to a larger garage, so it's kind of like a double bay. And that houses all of our donated and volunteer equipment, and that's just like a one-stop shop in place that they can go to. So this isn't a requirement, but having this infrastructure in place to like really support the Corps as a whole can help. But all those previous just functional tips, like those are the big things to take away from this. So in the long run, if you're just looking to grow, just like really be patient with yourself. So set reasonable expectations, be kind to yourself along the journey, don't rush yourself, don't be second guessing yourself, trust your core, trust the process. So that's my bit. So now we're open to questions. You have one? Yeah.
I'm curious to know if your stewardship committee is involved in monitoring. Is it totally separate? Is there an overlap? Is it the same committee? What, do they have any monitoring responsibility?
Yeah, so our committee doesn't right now. It's mostly staff, and then our property caretakers help with monitoring.
So you don't have a monitoring group as a separate?
I say our property caretakers are that group. Do you mean with CR monitoring or just property monitoring in general?
Both.
Okay. Yeah, so right now in our current form, we have our property caretakers are our monitors, as well as us for maybe the complicated sites. And we're, again, in the long range goal, we'll love to have volunteer CR monitors, but that just might not be where we are right now. But I'm doing a presentation on CRs next month with volunteers. I might even have some recruits from that. Owen, what do your folks do?
Our stewardship committee is very small. It's 4 people.
Yeah.
They mostly help with strategic planning for the department.
So how do you
no.
help handle that monitoring? Who does monitoring?
That's our Adopt Preserve program, is volunteers who go out and monitor and submit reports to us. Separate from the stewardship committee, but it is a group of volunteers.
Yeah, it's a similar function.
If I can dovetail on that question about the monitoring, since the group activities, that seems straightforward. People do love group activities, but the kind of the stewardship monitoring, even with the app, it's a bit more solitary and kind of self-initiative. Do you have any trouble? Is it sticky? I mean, do you have trouble getting people to do that and do it on a regular basis and send those reports in? Or is that a challenge?
I found it's easier to get people to do that.
Easier than
'Cause it's usually people who are just out, people who join the program are just at one of our properties to begin with. And
Is the app available to others, or is it proprietary?
it's an ESRI product, and it's through an account that we had to set up and share with. I'm not sure it's all above board, but I don't know.
Yeah, so for our property caretakers, we just have them fill out a Google form report. We haven't really gotten to the plotting thing specifically, but we just asked for a drop pin and photos to be sent along. So we're working on getting people into that next step of the technology side. But again, everything in time in a little ways. I do need to see if I can incorporate that ESRI bit. I think that'll be easier than trying to use our landscape software. That's where we've seen a little bit of a barrier there. But we found that the just submitting the property report has been a huge help, and just setting that standard of expectation has been good. When we started implementing that, there was a little bit of pushback, but as we were getting new volunteers and saying here's our standard, there was ready adoption there. So the older hats, it was tough, but eventually some of them came on, or we just still live with some exceptions. There was some other, maybe you, yeah.
Okay. I was wondering, especially because you were talking about how to recruit younger volunteers, what time of day, because if it's on a Tuesday, if it's in the middle of the day, how do you get people to come?
Yeah, so actual working, people that are working during the week, we've tried weekends, but that can be tough too. I've also heard that some people really like doing a end of work day, 5 to 7 thing sometimes. But yeah, it's tough. I haven't quite figured out the sweet spot with families. Maybe that's family vacation periods. So we're still kind of working on that ourselves. You have any tips?
Yeah, when we usually send younger people into Adopt Preserve first, because they can do it on their own time. Then if there are groups like scouts or something, that's usually a weekend project. Yeah.
Who was next? Maybe.
I'm just kind of tagging off at, well, first the one about the app versus, well, you sort of beat me to it with Google Forms. And I feel like they have an app that almost like a ArcGIS where it's tracking where it is, where the location is. But we do get a good amount of Google Forms from our volunteers, but it's not the same depth that you would get with something like your app. So that really intrigues me. That's going to help some of those, what did you call them, old cats? But that would maybe have a little trickier of a time dropping a pin, taking the picture, where if it's all just streamlined onto one thing, maybe that would be more simplistic. I can't tell you the amount of times I'm like, it says the tree is right here,
Yeah.
and it was really 3 trails over that way.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot what the other one was. Whatever you, volunteers on the weekends. So we do a lot. I think these days it's different, where so many people work from home. There's a little bit more fluctuation with how they can use their schedule. So we get a good amount of turnout during the week, but for every, say, for you do during, we don't do it weekly like you guys do. It'd be monthly, bi-monthly, or twice a month. But once every 4 or 5 times, throw a Saturday date in there for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So you get the best of, you'll find you'll get different people usually on those days than you would during the weekdays.
I know you had a question for this.
Yeah, my organization is going into its second growing season of trail monitoring. And so I was just looking for any advice that you wish you had or knew when you started.
Do you have like a specific?
Well, the app, Google Forms, anything else that you've tried out and found that it didn't really work?
Yeah, we used Cognito Forms for a long time as just kind of a pull-down menu for each issue that's now, we basically mimicked it in the Esri app. And that worked very well. So if you might look that way. And, I think as far as a new monitoring program, you're not going to be with those people as much as you would trail days. So just try to find a way to get to know them. Yeah, that's, I think.
Yeah, I came in with kind of like using Google Forms and having that at a previous organization I served with, and that seemed to be a good way to go. But things have just grown in time too. Like there weren't the apps then that there are now, so that these opportunities that are now like more user-friendly than landscape even may provide some opportunity now to explore.
I came in a little late, so I might have missed this, but I was wondering how you bring leadership along with you in the process of expanding the program. So for example, were there ever any tension points of trying to rationalize, maybe we need more staff capacity, we might need a little bit more budget to continue building this program, and how you handle that?
Do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I think our leadership was always very supportive of it. And when you see the end of my slide that we got $55,000 worth of labor in 2025, that justifies it. We put maybe a quarter of a salary towards managing the volunteer program and come out on top, and financially at least.
I think for my time, it took a really long time for us to get a second staff person. So I came in and there had already been a full-time staff person for maybe like a year and a half prior to me. And so it's very clear the only way that we're gonna build a program or grow our stewardship productivity on our properties is through volunteers, and trying to strategically grow that, and if we could through opportunity have leadership develop within stewardship, that was going to be ideal. And then with our incoming stewardship person has just supported that further, but we still try to grow that. I don't think there was resistance internally. When I started, I didn't even share this, we had 4 people in total on staff, including me, so 2 people full-time including me, and then 2 part-time, and now our organization is 11 staff, still 3 full-time, including our 2 stewardship folks, and everyone else is part-time. And I think our executive director big time recognized that we need to, our forever mission as an organization, focus on perpetuity, is at some point everything is going to be acquired that can be acquired. You need to invest in stewardship. And that's a mix between staff to be able to have the established in-house capacity to steward, because who knows, hopefully volunteerism will be around forever, but there are some trends, especially with the economy, that there may be a decreasing trend in volunteerism. And so ensuring that you do have the staff capacity to keep up with your needs, because we're just going to keep on having more properties and likely more complex ones, more trails, restoration. projects. And our board is very trusting of our staff and expertise, which I think is a really, really helpful thing and doesn't hinder that in a way. So I think that we've just been blessed in that way to be able to grow. You've had a question for a while.
Yeah, so this is more for Owen, but you were talking about some of the recruiting of volunteer groups, like municipal groups, companies, staff organizations. For those types of one-off volunteering events, how do you train them, and what kind of projects can you give that are both like safe, productive, and also might increase returning volunteers?
Yeah, great question. It's usually something pretty basic. We've done boardwalk demos with 30 people where we're just ripping up old boardwalk, and that's, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, demolition works as long as everybody keeps a good distance from each other. Great for trash cleanups. You can get into invasive pulls. You just need to keep an eye on everybody, that they're pulling the right stuff. And the training, just be really clear up front and make sure everybody hears you and you have enough. Don't take on a group that is too big for you. So make sure you can keep an eye on everybody the entire time. Yeah.
I say the same thing. So I focused on who's our active core, but yeah, we've got some groups as well. So yeah, I think keep it simple, but keep it meaningful too. Have them be able to see what the result is. There's an opportunity there to recruit. So you may spend a little more time at the beginning of giving an overview of your organization. And I always like to, if we're going to have a group, I try to invite some of our core stewards to join as well, because they're our best recruitment tool, is friend raising with others and sharing why have you shown up for 3 years with us? And that usually resonates the most with people. So anyone who's in the area or may visit the area, again, that seems to resonate the most beyond just I'm just doing this project today. But yeah, we've done some trail clipping, so that's just easy because just here's how you use some loppers, here's how you use a handsaw, trash pickup, weeding, planting, so not just weeding if possible, and some invasive plant removal, but ideally have here are one or two things at most to pull, so because if you overwhelm people with all these different plants, it's just gonna go this way. But yeah, we've had good success in that way with groups.
When you say that people are coming back, are you tracking what's is it 3 years is a good run, or is it people are coming back 5 years? Are you keeping track of that?
We probably have 50% retention past 3 years, if I had to just guess off the top of my head. With the Volun Tuesday, the last 2.5 years, we haven't lost anybody, and it keeps growing. So it's a new approach, and it seems to be working. But we are approaching that time. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd say definitely the same here. At least 50% of if people have participated in probably 3 projects, we're going to see them for a very long time, if not indefinite. The only thing that seems to stop people is a family event that happens, illness, some change that moves them somewhere else. Maybe they need to change a job or something. But that's where that follow-up and care and genuine care and check-in counts. We've had people where they were ill a couple of years ago and had to stop, and we just kept them on the roll and kept checking in, and they said yeah, keep me on the roster. I want to see these communications. And several of them felt better this year and came back this year. So that was huge and really resonating of just again, yeah, focusing on community is huge, and really caring about your people is huge.
So you keep talking about strategy and projects and keeping people engaged and showing the needs of stewardship over time. We're all this forever business. So have you seen, or have you, I'm sure you've thought about it, but seen either from your volunteers or from your land steward committee that like fundraising element of it, of like who's leading, like what projects you're able to do based on your funding, and are you seeing the increase in number of like forward-facing like stewardship volunteer programs, like getting people thinking about that, like, oh, I want to make a gift not just to such and such land acquisition, but to this work that I have my hands in right now.
I hope I understood the question correctly.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But you can answer
I started smiling because we're actually in the middle of a capital campaign and are working on including our volunteer corps as part of that, as like, helping them to, because a part of our capital campaign is actually raising some money for like a stewardship endowment that we can continue to support ourselves on. Having stewardship volunteers just see how important they are, but also sharing that message a bit. Our committee is really on the strategic end, so they've heard a bit related to the capital campaign. And I guess since we do have like a stewardship fund element to our capital campaign, there are entities and individuals that are specifically funding stewardship, which is huge, because when we were looking at the feasibility study last year, there were still folks that were just like, I'm not going to fund operations or stewardship, I'm only going to fund land projects. But our development team and again our executive director's been working really hard on having that as part of like our communications as a whole, and including it in our like summer appeal of hey, contribute to the stewardship fund, or this is where the money is going this year. So we've been kind of like building up to that now, and just having it as part of our communications instead of shying away from it, and see what the response is. It's been a good response. Does that answer any of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything from you, Owen?
I think we're well past the time here.
One last question, forgive me if I mentioned it earlier, was what would you say your best technique for recruiting members are? Just to start out with and getting some sort of base of volunteers.
Start talking to people you see on properties.
Start talking to people,
Yeah, that's,
Yeah. Just get the word out.
yeah.
I just wanted to share real quick something positive that we've done with next generation involvement. Is we have a high school that has an environmental pathway, environmental studies pathway, and those people, those students, love to come out and learn how to pull invasives. And they're getting assignments, and we're getting interns. We've developed a really, really good relationship with their instructor. When he drives the little van, and when you were talking about Tuesday afternoon is our sweet spot with them. And it's been wonderful, and they're talking to their parents about, hey, we're out there, and they, on the weekend, we've seen a parent, like walking out there because they're showing them, look, this is bittersweet. We know how to pull it. It's like orange roots. And it's just been a really positive relationship all the way around for every single piece of it. So, kind of look, talk to the kids. If you've got grandkids, well, to me it's grandkids, but kids about, do you have, any instructor in your school? What are the classes? Is there any environmental? The biology teacher may be dying to get his kids on a piece of property because it's hands-on for identification or whatever. And that's the way we're going to get the next generation. That's my input on it.
Good end. Good end.